Greetings, welcome once again from my kitchen here in my home in Santa Marta, Colombia. Today's update, I wanted to also provide the options for a video blog update. So you can watch this video, sit back and relax, or if you prefer reading it, it's all typed up down below. You can look at the pictures and read the story if that's what you prefer. But here goes. Today's blog entry is entitled, Not So Kodak Moments. Believe it or not, it always hasn't been all pretty Kodak moments during this ongoing learning process of living in Colombia. In fact, just this past Monday, I added one of those not-so-picture-perfect moments to my collection. There are many things to get used to and learn when moving into a foreign country and culture. Over the last year, I've written about many of these lessons, such as showing up for an hour late for any event is acceptable, or rain being a sufficient excuse to stay home regardless of any type of prior commitment. I'm well into my second year here in Colombia, and the reality that God might call me back is one that I'm praying and preparing for. With this in mind, and being from a banking background, it's natural for me to want to develop credit here in Colombia. In the case God does call me back here, I want to have developed some kind of credit history here in order to have access to certain privileges and opportunities in life, especially if I return with a wife or a family. Most of you know what kind of job God brought me from as part of the TD Financial Group and many of the amazing things He did during my time there. What some of you may not know was the type of keener I was in regards to personal credit. Whether it be educating, debunking myths, tips on how to develop it, you could call me religious in the manner I approach the subject. Call it what you may, but I had a passion for it. Whether it was with young or old clients in my office at TD, or whether it was entering an auditorium at a university, I felt burdened and excited at the same time. It was my desire to educate and empower whomever I could so that they could enjoy the fruits of their hard work. Yes, the geek inside of me was always excited to see the benefits of my planted seeds taking form of the open life opportunities for my clients. A personal rule of thumb was always that I needed to be a living example of what I was teaching throughout the Lower Mainland. In many ways, I am my own personal credit Nazi, making sure that every account was in order, every payment, and yes, every speeding or traffic ticket was promptly taken care of. In addition to my hard work, but more so the grace of God, I was able to purchase my first home at 22, along with pretty much having access to whatever type of credit I would ever need. Some would say I was riding high, living the dream just prior to landing here in Colombia as a missionary. In the 2.5 months prior to my departure, it included an all-expenses-paid trip to Hawaii, vacations to California and Mexico, celebrating and eating out with loved ones almost every day, leaving my job as one of the top-performing employees in the company during my tenure. And to top it all off, an amazing girlfriend, community of friends, and family. Then, amidst the festive Olympic celebrations, with the world in my backyard, I was transported thousands of miles away to a country where nothing was familiar. I barely understood any one of the thousands of people around me, and neither could they clearly decipher my giant Chinese man walking display of charades. After settling down a little, many of you have read my blog entries of reality hitting me hard in my search for an apartment. No longer with the comfortable salary of my previous job, I now depend on God working through all of your generosity to provide for my daily well-being. Faced with the fact that my salary could only offer me with the means to rent a rat and cockroach-infested apartment was most definitely humbling. And if that wasn't enough, I think God had some fun with me in the fact that I wasn't even recognized in this country to sign my own rental agreement. I needed to ask 3 other members of my new church community to sign a rental contract for me, because my signature was insignificant, even for a $135 a month apartment. Some people are classified as high approval individuals. No need to beat around the bush. I am one of them. It is my strength and my weakness. In one sense, this character trait motivates me to do my best and excel in whatever I apply myself to. On the other hand, combine it with my banking/personal credit Nazi tendencies, not being able to sign for anything, or even having the ability to get a cell phone, feels like a kick in the nuts for someone like me. This brings me to my not-so-Kodak moment that took place last week. Praise God, Frank Zychek, one of my faithful co-missionaries here in Colombia, has been here for ages and graciously signed a cell phone contract to help feed my need to always be technologically connected. My natural tendencies arose and I began religiously trying to build up whatever credit or kind of trust that I could over the last year in Colombia. Thoughtfully and kindly, Frank suggested recently that I check and see if I had built enough credit over the last year to transfer my phone from his name into mine, in order that I could establish more credit over the upcoming year. So walking into one of the local corporate stores, I handed my Colombian ID to the staff member who promptly entered my information into the system. Happily, I received the good news that my year of faithfully waiting in lines to pay all my bills on time had paid off. I'm not super familiar of how it is outside of North America, but when you qualify credit-wise for a postpaid cell phone plan in North America and you want a phone, there's pretty much no chance you will or can leave the mall without one. In Colombia, this is not the case. After passing the credit check at any of the local cellular carrier corporate stores, you need to make your way to the loan main office in order to continue the process. Your first session at the main office consists of giving all your personal information again to the new employee who sets up an appointment to have your home visited. What is this, you say? You go home, and sometime during the next week, an employee will come to verify where you live and ask all the same information you gave the first two employees to make sure everything appears legit. As if this process isn't lengthy enough for just obtaining a cell phone. This is where I experienced the hiccup. My landlord, out of the kindness of his heart, decided to make a new plaque for my home, which states my address. Only one problem. After these custom plaque signs were made, he realized that the last digit of my address was done incorrectly, but decided to hang the new signs anyways. The employee came to visit me and noticed this small error. Despite showing all my utility bills with the correct address and all my neighbors saying that I am the only large Chinaman living in Santa Marta and vouching for me where I lived. There, I was surprised to find out that on my third trip to the main office, that this all wasn't sufficient. Enter my not-so-Kodak learning moment. I was told after getting Frank to trek out to the main office again with me, we would now need to change the digit in the system and return home to wait for a second interview. All this hoop jumping made no sense to me and caused for quite a bit of frustration. That being said, making a scene in public and fighting things in Colombia didn't seem to be the smartest option. So I made my way home again in hopes that sooner or later we'd accomplish our desired goal. I'm not proud to admit it, but coming home last Monday after the third visit to the main office, I was quite irritated. Some things here are so developed, and others are so backwards, and it leaves you with that feeling you get after using high-speed broadband internet for so long, and then having to go back to dial-up. But it was a gut check for me. Why was something so insignificant so irritating to me? I came home and prayed to God for peace and a renewed strength to continue this learning process in a healthy and positive manner, so that I could reflect Him positively at all times. With Friday, this past Friday, came my fourth visit to the cell phone carrier office. 2 more hours of waiting in line and filling out the same information I had given the previous 3 employees. But this time I came away with my fingerprints being taken and a contract signed to have the cell phone line transferred over to my name. Albeit with the process still not over, I left that night, content, and flagged down a motor taxi to take me home. I told him where I needed to go, and he quoted me the normal price, and we were on our way. As usual, hanging onto the back of the motor taxi, the small talk began, and he inquired where I was from. Upon hearing that I was from Canada, he began to play up how far my destination was, thinking I didn't know the city and he could charge me more. The whole way back home, he tried to take advantage of me, up until the point of dropping me off at the corner of my block. Pulling out my money to pay, I saw him pull out only enough change to rip me off. I kindly stated the price we agreed on, but he insisted on taking advantage of a seemingly ignorant foreigner. Simply, I just stepped into the tienda on the corner of the street to ask my buddy for change so he couldn't rip me off. He proceeded to gloat and complain to my neighbors about this Chinese foreigner who wouldn't fall for his tricks. Quickly, his confidence turned to embarrassment, as all my neighbors started harassing him for giving me a hard time. They defended me as their friendly missionary neighbor who basically reprimanded this man, this motor taxi driver, for trying to take advantage of me. You see, it's not the embarrassment felt by the motor taxi driver that brings me joy, but rather the lesson and a reminder God gave me. Yes, there are little things that may and do get under my skin. Things that I have to grow and learn to get used to. More importantly, I was reminded the reason that I'm here. The people, the life lived together, the relationships are so much bigger than those things. And what God has blessed me with here, with the Nationals, is absolutely priceless. As I wrote this blog entry, my doorbell rang for the third interview from my cell phone company. A month after we began, it looks like I'll have a cell phone under my name sometime by the end of next week. Well, that's the end of this blog entry. Once again, thank you so much for your prayers and support, and I hope I'll be able to continue, despite how busy it gets, to continue to update you so that we can journey together during my time here in Colombia and beyond. Thank you.